Here we go again, another day, another can. The old way of preparing for disasters is broken. Stockpiling bland cans and mystery buckets that taste like cardboard. That's how folks used to do it. Before prices went sky high and FEMA started talking about closing its doors. We're for patriots, and we're on a mission to fix it. We believe every American family deserves real, delicious meals.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Hey Tanya, good to see you. Doing a volume check here on YouTube, and go check out Rumble real quick. Okay, loud and clear here on YouTube. Yeah, I got a lot of important information I'd like to get out tonight, and hopefully this live stream is shared. Hold on a second. Let me do a test on Rumble here real quick. Okay, we should be live on Rumble as well. Refresh it. Let me see. What in the world's going on here? Okay, it's showing up live now. Okay, welcome everybody here on Rumble as well. Check that soundbite here. Showing up live now. Okay, welcome everybody here on Rumble as well. Check that. I noticed the title of the live stream I flawed up there a little bit, far as propaganda right next to the end. But congratulations, the World Series winners. I'll get into that game, and I'll talk about the Canadian propaganda ad that was on during that game. I'm going to talk about the mainstream media, the Psyops and propaganda operation that's going on nonstop. I just couldn't even stomach watching 60 Minutes. They call that an interview, right, with the President of the United States. It's just ridiculous, stupid, beyond all measures, just stupid people, you know. And we have to dig into this a little bit more. The Trump administration is going to have to dig in a little bit more about these media stations like CBS putting out a psychological warfare. I mean, it's just ridiculous what they're feeding to the public. And they should be sued or lose their license. I'm so sick of this nonstop attacks on Trump administration, you know, going in from like, okay, well, you completely secured the border into, ISIS tackling pregnant single mothers, you know, and busting out windows. But they don't never talk about what caused them to react that way as far as apprehending some of these people. You know, it's ridiculous. It's an ongoing psychological warfare operations, and I'd like to see where places like CBS and all the rest of the MSM, where they're getting their money to continue to go out there to lie to the American people. Now, I want to get on a good start here. Now, I was rooting for the Los Angeles Dodgers after I heard that propaganda ad okay, I really swapped over to the Dodgers, but this is an American team, as far as that goes, and L.A. Dodgers, right? So I guess this is the third time they won the World Series. I basically, when they started putting their knee to the ground and all that stuff and disrespecting our flag and all that stuff they were doing, I haven't watched a professional football game in years. So, but I started watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So some of those players are just caught up. They don't like it either. They want to play, the best they can. And I mean, these are professional athletes, professional athletes. And, I know the work. Even though I wasn't anywhere near a professional, I did play like baseball, little league, and that kind of thing, even T-ball. Yeah. Little itty bitty RH played T-ball, I think the T was taller than me. So I was hitting pop flies. I can't remember. It's been so long ago. No, I hit the cone a couple times. It's like a cone, right? They put the ball on, something like that. But been quite a few years ago. But anyways, it was a great game. I watched one game where they went 18 innings, and the Dodgers won that game. I mean, it was a nightmare, not a nightmare, a marathon, I should say, marathon game. And man, this one went down to I think the bottom of the 11th. Yeah, the last game they got tied up on Friday night, and then they came back in Saturday for the 7th game. It was the best 4 out of 7, right? So they were losing. The Dodgers was losing, like, I mean, most of the game, from what I recall. And the Blue Jays was up by 3 runs, I think, and then at 1.2 runs, and then 1 run, and then, what I mean? But it was a great game, great game. If y'all can go check out that game, but I want to talk about this, and those guys deserved every bit of it. And the Blue Jays played great games too. Remember, they were up. All they needed was one more win. It was 3-2 Dodgers, and the 3-2 the Blue Jays, and the Dodgers had to win 2 games in a row against a very good team, right? And they accomplished that. And again, they won the World Series in the bottom of the 11th inning. So for those that don't know, there's 9 innings. At the bottom of the 9 innings, nobody scores or whatever. The people that are playing, batting at the bottom of the inning, after 9 innings, they win. So, but anyways, the Blue Jays had they were like they came up the bat on the bottom of each inning, so they had a little bit of a advantage that way. But great pitching, a great team, the Dodgers. I mean, brings back memories. I used to actually work at Darlington racetrack for the Air Force, and I know it wasn't baseball, but we had a stand up, and we sold soft drinks, that kind of thing, popcorn and that kind of thing to the fans. And I worked at booth at Darlington while stationed at Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina. But anyways, we traveled there to Darlington, and we basically maintained the booth, whatever, during the races. And then when I was a kid, before I joined the Air Force, I worked in Tampa Bay Stadium, and I was selling drinks and stuff like that. Back then, the minimum wage was only like about $2 or something an hour, the minimum wage. And I could work like 2 or 3 hours and get like $20 or whatever, so like doubling the minimum wage or tripling it or quadrupling it, whatever. Plus I got tips. And, it was good money for me, like pocket money as a kid, So I loved doing that. And I could sit down and watch the game, and not hustle too much to make money and watch the game. Uh, but anyways, let's get started with this. So I talked about the world. Congratulations to the Dodgers for winning the World Series against the uh, Canadian Toronto Blue Jays. Now, I want to. If you're watching free antenna TV, I got a free antenna dish for local channels, so I don't have to pay any more subscription cost or whatever. And I got the propaganda ads. So a lot of people they have the streaming channels or whatever you call them. They don't get to see the mainstream media ads when they pop up. But Canada is they have a lot of let's say, I love the Canadians. I work with Canadians. When I worked in NORAD and when I worked in NATO, I had a major I worked with. He was a helicopter pilot, Canadian helicopter pilot, uh, and really great guy. He was my sponsor and helped me out when I first got to that station when I was working for NATO. But great guy, Rene Bellamar. Hope he's still out there. Hope he's really did a lot of helped me out a lot when I first got to that duty station, NATO assignment. But anyways, and again, I work with Canadians far as NORAD concerns. Okay, and I won't get into that much more. So I'm not talking about those Canadians, our friends. We're talking about the far left problem they have and them joining the getting on ship with the anti-Trump stuff and the propaganda. It's just sickening. You can't even go watch a game without hearing this garbage. Of course, I could turn the TV off just for the ads, but I'm going to get into this. The Canadian government can be in hot trouble. They spent millions of dollars, if I understand it right, millions of dollars for that propaganda ad. And it was defamatory, I guess you call it defamatory towards President Trump, our president. And it was totally uncalled for. They actually edited out the radio address from Ronald Reagan when he made that radio address. I'm going to share y'all the actual radio address, and you can go look at it yourself, right? And this is from the ReaganLibrary.gov, GOV archive speech, okay? So now the way the propaganda ad, the defamatory propaganda ad started out, it was basically, how much Reagan disliked tariffs and all this stuff and everything like that. But if you go to the address, the actually address from the ReaganLibrary.gov archives speech radio address, nation free and fair trade. Okay, let me get the actual radio address to the nation on free and fair trade. Okay, it begins. My fellow Americans. Now this speech was on, I guess, a radio address to the nation. Okay, this was conducted April 25th of 1987. My fellow Americans, Prime Minister Nakasone of Japan will be visiting me here at the White House next week. It is an important visit because while I expect to take up our relations with our good friend Japan, which overall remains excellent, recent disagreements between our two countries on the issue of trade will also be high on our agenda. Okay? As perhaps you've heard, last week I placed new duties on some Japanese products in response to Japan's inability to enforce their trade agreement with us on electronic devices called semiconductors, now imposing such tariffs or trade barriers and restrictions of any kind are steps that I am loath to take. Now, opposing such tariffs or trade barriers and restrictions of any kind are steps that I am loath to take. And in a moment, I'll mention the sound economic reason for this, that over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer, but Japanese semiconductors were a special case. We had clear evidence that Japanese companies were engaging in unfair trade practices that violated an agreement between Japan and the United States. We expect our trading partners to live up to their agreements. As I've often said, our commitment to free trade is also a commitment to fair trade. Okay, so basically, right off the jump, even though Reagan doesn't like to implement, he loathed to implement tariffs, he had to do it because of the unfair trade deals. And then, like a country like at this time, Japan not basically following through and enforcing their basically trade agreement. So basically, this is the exact same thing that President Trump is doing. With people ripping us off, putting tariffs on our goods where we can't sell any of our goods. I'll use an example like the Harley Davidson motorcycle. Some places, I can't remember which countries, but you can't even sell them in their countries because they're too expensive to buy, because there's like 100% tariffs on their motorcycles, right? So that's one example of many. And of course, we don't want our leaders, our so-called leaders or representatives to go out there and mislead our country and pay tariffs and make all these unfair trade deals that basically hits us at our pocket, where it basically jeopardizes even us being able to put food and drinks on our tables for our family, our kids, whatever, and for us to even pay our own bills here, And so anyways, they all jumped on board with all this stuff, all this psychological warfare operations. It has not ended. The propaganda is full speed ahead, and especially for the elections. Now, so remember, the very beginning, they didn't talk about Ronald Reagan implementing tariffs in that ad. From what I heard, it was ridiculous. They just talked about how he loathed, and how bad tariffs are. How bad are tariffs? Yeah. What if a trade deficit between the United States and, for example, China is $500 billion a year? And we're being ripped off in trade left and right. They're flooding our country with their, let's just say, slave labor like goods, right, on our market. How the heck are we going to compete against that, right? So, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, and Canada should be sued over that. And Trump basically stopped all trade negotiations with Canada after he did that. Yeah, you got to regroup sometimes. They're going to play games like this and try to influence elections with that anti-Trump BS. Yeah, you know what I mean? And make it harder for the administration and have all this psychological warfare operations going on. propaganda operations and full speed ahead going on. And I'm going to give people another example of that tonight, which is really sickening. I just watched a little bit of the 60 Minutes. I don't know if that was last night, that was on last night or tonight. I don't know. But just watch the 60 Minutes between this little political hack. They're asking those questions about, Trump is basically making it sound like Trump is responsible for the government shutdown. Wait a minute. Hold on a second here. Before anybody gets to any kind of conclusions, before I even say anything, it's the Democrat Party shutdown. And pardon me if my voice gets a little bit elevated, because I'm sick of this. You know what? I'm sick of seeing this every day. The American people spoke in majority in 2024. We won the popular vote. We won the electoral college vote. We did everything right. And by the way, in 2022, the Republicans had the majority by, I can't remember. I think it was over 50,000. We just surpassed the majority of the voters. So that means, guess what that means? That's the majority in our country, the popular vote. We won the popular vote. The Democrats don't have the majority in neither the House or Senate, even though the majority is slim in the House. And I think that's why the mainstream media is putting out, still running the psychological warfare operation that they took that DARPA program that was a Psyops operation against ISIS of all people, right? They took the same psychological warfare operation that they had developed to go put out, that operation against that, an organization, right? And they used it against the American people. They're still using it against the American people. Even after the American people spoke, even with them taking over basically total control of the mainstream media. Now, I saw something on Shannon Bream, I think she didn't sound like any better than CNN or any of the mainstream other media outlets, right? Propaganda outlets. She didn't, in my opinion, it was one like gotcha question after the other I heard from her. I mean, you got Fox doing that, and you got every single mainstream media outlet doing that too. And it's sickening. It's sickening what they're feeding our people. And, because mainly, well, I don't really consider myself low income, but I have a fixed income, right? Because I'm retired Air Force. I have I'm not rich, and I'm not even middle class, what people call middle class. So, anyways, yeah, it's, think about this. And I wrote a big statement up on True Social, and I'm going to share it again. I wish people could go to my True Social account, area 111, without the space, and look at my profile, go down my profile page, and look at this statement I made about the government shutdown. These people, they are corrupt. President Trump said it exactly correct. He said they're trying to extort us by not signing the continued resolution to open back up our government. They want to extort us. It's like a grand larceny at the level our probably country's never even heard of before. We're talking about trillions of dollars. We're not just talking about the what do you call that, food stamps or whatever, or SNAP or whatever, right? Which, from my understanding, 48% of those people are not American citizens, or they're immigrants or whatever. I don't know how much of them are illegal or whatever, but they're not even like American citizens. You know what I mean? They're probably green card holders. Now, I don't have anything against green card holders or those here, basically with a work visa, and if they're allowed to have certain of those benefits, and if they get a hey, they're here working, working in our country, helping us, I don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean? But I mean, I don't know I'm not a lawmaker, not a lawbreaker either. Okay, you can say, okay, I had one speeding tick, bad boy, RH, bad boy. You got a speeding ticket like 20 years ago. Bad boy, RH. Don't do it again. So, anyways, yeah, it was, I just traveling down, was it 95, and I was actually I was riding along traffic, and traffic passed me up, and then, I wasn't paying attention, and I thought I was going to, no cop out, say, hey, I paid the price, I paid the fine, whatever. I was speeding, I got caught, and I paid the bill, right? I paid the ticket, whatever. But there was people passing me like I was standing still. That, so anyways, I won't go into it any further. But it was a hefty ticket, if I remember correctly. Now I have this GPS thing, whatever, nav system in my vehicle, and it tells me if I go over the speed limit. In case sometimes you don't see signs, right? You don't see signs for a while, and you go, well, I wonder what the speed limit is. So you would just have to guess, you know what I mean, or whatever, and really, sometimes you'll pass by a speed limit, and like a semi trailer is right next to you, and you don't see the sign, and you don't see another one for 10 miles. You might be speeding, you might be going too slow. Who knows? You know what I mean? So with the nav system, you can set it up and bring up the map. You don't even have to type in a destination to get the speed limit read out to you, or audio warning, hey, you're going past the speed limit. I set it up, I think 4 miles an hour over the speed limit. You know what I mean? Something like that. But you don't have to do that. You can set it right at the speed limit. It'll say, hey, you're going too fast or whatever. It'll tell you what the speed limit. You can see what the speed limit is on your readout on your monitor or whatever on your screen. So anyway, so you got to keep an eye on that then for anybody not to get a speeding ticket. And that's a really great thing to have. I think it's paid for itself, but not really, because I'm not in a rat race. I don't have a need to get somewhere. I mean, I don't weave in between traffic either. But anyways, with that said, so now I'll go into, to be fair, the second paragraph of this radio address to the nation on free and fair trade from President Reagan. And let's go back to this again. Say, okay, now imposing such tariffs or trade barriers and restrictions of any kind are steps that I am loath to take. And in a moment, I'll mention the sound economic reasons for this. Okay? How many people out there, raise your hand? I'm sure I can see you raise your hand, right? And listen to this live stream. How many people believe that President Trump and the Trump administration are using sound economic reasons for implementing tariffs against these other countries that have, remember, reciprocal. Remember, Trump has talked about this reciprocal over and over, right? Okay, so, and this is Reagan, remember, and in a moment, I'll mention the sound economic reasons for this, that over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. But the Japanese semiconductors were a special case. We had clear evidence that Japanese companies were engaging in unfair trade practices that violated an agreement between Japan and the United States. We expect our trading partner to live up to their agreements. As I've often said, our commitment to free trade is also a commitment to fair trade. And that's basically President Trump's same beliefs. But you know, in opposing these tariffs, we were just trying to deal with a particular problem, not begin a trade war. And that's exactly what President Trump does. He does fair trade deals, and sometimes we're winning party with the trade deals, right? And sometimes we have to implement tariffs to equalize the unfair trade deals or other countries violating their trade agreements with us. So we have to do the same thing that Reagan did, right? So nobody wants a trade war. I'm pretty sure President Trump doesn't want a trade war either. But we're just tired of being ripped off. You know, you think about it, we're like over $38 trillion in debt. I don't know to this day how much of that debt is constitutional debt or not. Okay, and I won't go into it on this live stream here, but so, okay, this is continue on. So next week, I'll be giving Prime Minister Nagasone the same message. We want to continue to work cooperatively on trade problems and want very much to lift these trade restrictions as soon as evidence permits. We want to do this because we feel both Japan and the United States have an obligation to promote the prosperity and economic development that only free trade can bring. Okay. Now that message of free trade is one I conveyed to Canada's leaders a few weeks ago. Now, this is Reagan, continue on. And it was warmly received there. Indeed, throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. So I won't go into it much longer, but remember, Canada was imposing unfair trade tariffs against America from our goods getting into Canada. And they took over a lot of our parts, auto parts companies, whatever. They took over assembling or basically making parts for, like, you know, our vehicles. I when you go look at buying a vehicle, say a new vehicle, look on the window sticker. Look on the window sticker, and they'll tell you. Let's see, I got one somewhere real quick, and I hope it's the right vehicle. I was shocked to see that. Basically, as far as the vehicles we buy brand new, we think are American vehicles like Ford, Dodge, whatever, Ram, that kind of thing. We would think that a lot of that, all those parts would be made in America. But there's, I have another window sticker somewhere. But I'm just going to look at this one to see if this one's on there. Okay. This is from Jeep. Jeep, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, those dealerships. This vehicle I bought a while back. It was a Jeep Compass Sport. Okay, so let's look at it. Parts content information. For vehicles in this car line, U.S. Canada parts content, 69%. Think about that. They're making 69% of the parts for those Jeeps. Now, the Jeep Compass and the Jeep, I forgot the different models. They're basically the same. For this vehicle, final assembly point was in Illinois, right? Country of origin, the engine was made in the United States. The transmission was made in Japan. Okay? So think about this. For vehicles in this car line, so that's Jeep, what do you call that other? Jeep Wrangler. They have the Jeep Wrangler, and they have that Jeep, kind of like the, man, I can't believe I don't remember the name of the other Jeeps. If anybody can pop that in the chat, I appreciate it. Hey, Tracy, I didn't catch you there. Good to see you here. Daniel, great to see you here as well. I'm reading from my source reference page, so that's the reason why I didn't catch you guys here on YouTube. So hold on a second, real quick. So I guess the audio is still going good, but for some reason it shows I only have one other person on Rumble. Wow. They're still throttling channels back, in my opinion. I don't think much has changed. They just got more covert about it, right? So if you could throttle a channel back by, I don't know if y'all getting the alerts on, you might be getting alerts on YouTube, but hey, T3, great to see you. Yeah, there's like a Jeep. Man, I can't remember. Cherokee, Jeep Cherokee. Remember those? So this was I know this is a while ago, 2016 model year. Now think about this again. U.S. Canadian parts content of this vehicle for vehicles in this car line. That means Jeep Wranglers, Jeep Cherokees, and Jeep Compasses, right? 69%. Now, how many people out there, I'm sure I could see you raise your hand. How many people say, man, I would like to be working in a parts manufacturing, have a manufacturing job like that? I would love to have it, right? I mean, so let's go back to this. So I think I spoke enough on this, but go through and look at the parts content information and where they assemble some of our vehicles. A lot of our vehicles are, I think, being assembled in Mexico, and you know what I mean. And how fair is that trade? Like if I go, when I was in Europe, for example, real quick, when I was in Europe for like 17 years and 10 months of my service overseas, right? I rarely saw American vehicles. I very, very rarely saw Corvettes. The only Corvettes I saw in Europe were basically for service members that shipped their cars over. They were allowed to ship their cars over with them when they went stationed over, say, for example, in Germany or wherever, UK or whatever they go, overseas. So basically, I never ever seen a German plated Corvette, for example. But in the United States, what do we see? Mercedes, BMWs, Porsches, what's the other one? Audis, all those European cars, mainly from Germany, right? Those were all from Germany. But what else do we see here? Volvos, Volvos. We see Land Rovers. We see a lot of Land Rovers. That's a British or UK vehicle, right? All those Land Rovers we see. A lot of people buy those high dollar Land Rovers, and they don't buy our vehicles. So it hurts our economy. That's an example of unfair trade practices. When you can't even sell because they'll put so much tariffs on them, the Europeans can't afford them, right? And be honest, a lot of them probably wouldn't want to buy them because a lot of those, like the muscle cars, I call them, or sport cars that we build, they're not so much good on, gas mileage, GP, what do you call that? MPG, right? So, but if you go to their gas pumps up there, they're overseas, they're about 3 times more than what we pay here in the States for gasoline for a gallon of gas, right? They go by liters, and I think it's about 3 liters per gallon, something like that. But very expensive, the petro over there, overseas locations. But anyways, so now the Democrats shut down. You hear the mainstream media. I mean, they should lose their license for this stuff. It's so ridiculous. And basically, Trump on 60 Minutes called it right. And he called it right. Why they always set up Trump every time he goes and has these interviews? I wouldn't even watch 60 Minutes if I didn't see Trump was going to be on there. So they get you in there, right? They get you tied to get you in there. And then they start up with their BS. I mean, nonstop BS. These I got you questions, right? It's sickening. So how many people heard about the riots about 2:00 in the morning last night in DC? It looked like hundreds of people out there. I mean, the National Guard was basically, they couldn't do anything, right? They didn't have crowd dispersal munitions, whatever, you know what I mean? Not non-lethal munitions like tear gas or whatever to dispel the crowd. There was like mobs and there's fighting and all that kind of stuff on the streets, just uncontrolled, and that's who's behind that garbage. We've already seen National Democratic Redistricting Committee, Organizing for Action. Remember those 2 organizations? Go back to them. Go back and look it up. Organizing for Action, that puts about 30,000 foot soldiers on the streets of America. National Democratic Redistricting Committee, that's an organization, but you look it up. Don't write organization. You might find it hard to find that that website. Those are the people that facilitate the invasion into our country. We've already gone over this multiple times. And again, if you're new to this channel, if it's a little bit too loud on your ears, just turn the volume down. These people need to be held accountable. So remember, when they say, oh, Trump is trying to destroy our democracy, we're not even a freaking democracy to begin with. How many times have I read off Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution? How many times? 100 times? Probably somewhere around that. Hey, Ken, Zoe, good to see you. Appreciate everybody being here. If you got anything to say, think I need to talk about, put it in the chat and I'll put it up on the screen. Okay. Fair enough. So hold on a second. So I can basically show comments on the stage. All right. So I can see the comments a little bit better. I didn't know I could change that. Hey, thank you, Norma D. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you being here, and you guys don't mind share this live stream. And again, congratulations, Dodgers, man. That was an awesome game, man. An awesome series. And I was like on the edge of my seat like the whole game, man. It reminds me of my childhood days playing Little League at Lowry Park in Tampa. I play, like I was talking about, joking around about T-ball, and the ball was taller than me, so I had to swing with, and I kept hitting the cone because I had to swing up. I had to do like an uppercut, to hit the ball. But yeah, Little League. Then I went to the major league as far as Little League goes at Lowry Park. So y'all check that out. Little RH was out there playing his heart out. I was actually a pitcher too. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. I started to taper down a little bit when I got older, but I was a pretty wild pitcher. And I accidentally hit a few people. It was accident, man. It was an accident. But you keep on pounding me, hitting those home runs every time. You're kind of pissing me off here, I admit sometimes I was a bad sport. Little RH playing baseball was a bad sport, back in the Pee-wee days. Pee-wees. So, but yeah, this is cool. But anyways, check out that UFO. I don't think this is going to look like Three-Eye Atlas. I think it's going to exit out by Jupiter and basically be on its way, and hopefully won't ever see that thing again. But yeah, I know about the anomalies. I follow it real close, but it yeah, thank you, Tracy, for the prayers. Mrs. RH, she's getting better, a little bit better. She's still wobbly and really shouldn't be up on her feet too long, because after suffering that stroke on September 1st, and we heard another couple people had a stroke. I heard the person behind us had a stroke. Now, I was watching a live stream last night about it was on Nino's channel about microwave weapons. Now, I've talked about this before, and I don't know if I've basically gone into any more detail about it, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit tonight. But let's go back to the Dems shutdown. Now, again, I got great friends up in Canada. I'm not talking about all the Canadian people, but they got a far left problem like we do. Washington, D.C., of course, with all the trouble going on there again last night, 2 o'clock in the morning, rendering the National Guard helpless, or they couldn't do anything. They wasn't ordered. Okay, so anyways, there've been some kind of like some aggressive techniques to bringing down people that were resisting arrest, that were basically out of line, trying to impede federal law enforcement from doing their job, like blocking trucks and vehicles, and some of them got violent, and some of them had to be taken down real quick before anybody could get seriously injured. And for the most part, there's a couple of cases, in my opinion, where law enforcement were a little bit too rough. But hey, you know, you got to listen to their instructions. They got to listen to the law enforcement's instructions, right? So, so this is a Democratic Party shutdown. Make no ifs, ands, and buts. Let's get to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God. They've had 14 chances to sign the CR. What is the CR? It's a continuing resolution to open back up our government, which would end at the end of this year. And then they can go in and basically debate on all these other programs. But listen, what they're trying to do, Trump was spot on when he said they're trying to extort us. Us. Remember, the American people. They're trying to extort us by trying to cause us pain and suffering. For mainly indigent people or very low income people that need the help. And those people out there working every day, they're honest, they're honest. They're going out there trying to make ends meet, and they got a big family, whatever, and they can't afford, a lot of stuff, and they're on these programs. Hey, I don't mind giving you a hand up. I've helped out. I mean, you're not supposed to boast about this, as far as in the Bible goes, whatever, and that kind of thing. So I won't. But believe me, I help out people as much as I can with what I have, And it's ridiculous. Remember, every single Republican senator voted, from my understanding. Now, if that's an incorrect statement, if like one person wanted to be a rebel, whatever, and didn't want to support opening back up the government for whatever reason, from my understanding, the Democrats only need 5. And one Democrat, Fetterman, of all people, hey, I'm getting kind of, Fetterman should just switch over to Republican, but there's probably not a position open. So basically, Fetterman can help us out on commonsensical things like opening back up our government and trying to stop the Democrats from stealing basically $1 trillion from American people, American citizens, so they can basically bribe their illegal voters to vote for them in the upcoming elections. And basically, from what I heard, okay, so let's just break this down a little bit better for people that don't understand it. And I was one of those people. I didn't follow politics whatsoever when I was a young man. I voted for Ronald Reagan. I don't remember voting for George Herbert Walker Bush, but I voted for Reagan. And I remember that. And I'm proud of my vote for voting for Reagan. I think I voted for Reagan twice because he won the second term too as well. So remember, Reagan was almost murdered only 70 days into his presidency. And who was next in line to be president? The former CIA director, George Herbert Walker Bush. That's all I'll say about that. Let me get off that real quick. That hot potato. I'm going to get off that hot potato really quick. Pass that on to somebody else if they want to take it. So, yeah, if there's something y'all guys want to put out there in the chat that I missed, maybe. Well, I'm going to go back and again clarify this Democratic shutdown. Remember, the pay to the military, if it's still the same way, I think you can elect getting paid one time a month, every 30 days, whatever, or you can get elected. You can elect to get paid twice a month. That's what I did. I think it was the first of the month and the 15th of the month we got paid, right? That's what I elected to get. So they had enough money to basically pay the military, active duty military, if I understand it correct. Now, I don't know as far as the reserves goes and the inactive reserves, or they're probably, if they're inactive, I don't know if they still get money or not every month. But I would venture to say that those programs are over until the government's back open again. And Trump keeps saying, and I wish he'd switch it up. I wish he'd switch it up and say, instead of the Democrats shutting down our country, right? I wish he would say the Democrats shut down our government, right? And that's the reason why people aren't going to get SNAP, and that's the reason why they're not getting their food stamps. I don't know which or which, you know what I mean? Or if it's all included in SNAP, the what do you call it? The food stamps are far as SNAP goes. But again, remember this. Except for Fetterman, every single Democrat senator, U.S. senator, voted no to open back up our government. They voted no to open our government the first time with a continuing resolution so they can debate all these other programs like they should be doing in Congress. Not using this as leverage to make people go hungry and go out there and riot on the streets. Guess what I saw today? I saw a tower at Walmart. I saw that tower before. A tower's at Walmart, close to where I live, where I shop. I didn't go shopping there tonight because it's getting crazy out there, even in Florida. But they have a manned sheriff tower in the parking lot of Walmart. Think about that. A armed, manned sheriff tower in Florida because of the Democrats' shutdown to keep their people from going in there looting, stealing, assaulting, mobbing, doing whatever. And I've talked about this many times. There should be nobody in this world that goes hungry. And I've talked about all the food banks there are in Florida. There's one only a mile and a half from here. If that, maybe a little bit over a mile and a half or a little bit under a mile and a half. From my address, I could just drive my car or truck, whatever, once a week. I think it's on Mondays. And you pull up and they'll come out to you and they'll ask you how many people are in your household. They don't ask any other questions. They go get food. They load it in your car. And you got a lot of food to last for a while till next week, to the following week, right? And sometimes there's a lot of people. And I gotta get off my laurels here and go down there and basically be a member of that church. I really love that. That's America. That's Americans standing up for each other, helping each other out. And if there's somebody out there hungry, I don't care what your status is, Just ask an American politely, hey, I need food, whatever. My children, I got here, I was promised by Biden, everything would be free. I get here and I can't get food for my kids. You got the money to help them out, help them out. Asking you will receive, right? Pray to God and ask people out there. Go to church. Go to churches. Go to church. They're open on Wednesdays and Sundays, right? And there's probably somebody in the office every day, right? Go to the administrator. Basically maybe they can contact the pastor, whatever, the administrator of that church, whatever, and they say, okay, well, on an emergency case, we can help you out here, right? Go to churches for those that are out there struggling. Think about that. You drive up to a food bank at a church parking lot, right? You wait in line. You don't even have to get out of your car or your truck. They ask you how many people are in your household. You give them the number. They go get the food. They bring it back. They load it in your car or your truck, and you're gone. Not a zillion questions, nothing. No judgment, no problem. But for the people that want to take advantage of those programs and they don't need help, all I can say is there's going to be a judgment day for each and every one of us. Independent judgment day for each and every one of us. That's all I got to say with that. So I've been in the situation. Yeah, the only other thing I can say big help, yeah, while waiting on checks, right. Exactly. Hold on a second. Great comment, Norman D. Let's see what I got to do. Oh, wow, I got to refresh YouTube. I'm sitting there right on YouTube. Why would I have to refresh it for? Yeah. Yeah, excellent comment. Yeah, especially even the military, I had when I remember correctly at Shaw Air Force Base, and I think there's a little chapel and there's a pastor at pretty much every major base around the world, right? I remember there one being at Shaw Air Force Base. I remember that one vividly. Yeah, it was pretty rough when I joined the Air Force. You know how much money I got the first month and a half? I got let's see. I think it was $150 a month. $150 a month, and I think it was 75. That was when I was in basic training. I think it was $150 a month for the first month I was in basic training. So I guess you get paid by rank, I think, after you leave basic training. I don't know if you get any money back. You get a bigger check after you get through basic training, like an award. But still, you have to go through tech school, technical training. If you bomb out on that, they could kick you out too as well. So I got through both. Yeah, because you go in, you sign up. When you go in and you sign the contract to join the Air Force, they basically they assign you to a job, a specific job, we call it Air Force specialty, right? And after you finish basic training, which is a requirement to get in the Air Force, right? Then you have to go to your technical training, and you have to pass that to basically qualify for that job, for your contract. So if you don't qualify for that job, you can't get put in that position, because that's basically, I don't know if they could probably put you in another job, you know what I mean? But it didn't happen to me, so I really don't think about it. So I can't offer any advice. But if y'all have any sons, or I'm old school, so you're probably thinking as far as, you know, that's the way I was brought up, right? It's what the way I was brought up, and I'm not going to apologize for it. I don't think women should be serving in combat. Okay, especially mothers. So if I get a lot of bad publicity for that, or wherever, however you want to call it, that's fine. That's the way I was brought up. You know. So, anyways, but for those that are in active duty, congratulations if you got through your basic training and your technical training. Congratulations. And so anyways, I knew a lot of great women that served alongside of me, and I didn't really have a problem for that with them serving, but I didn't believe that women should be in combat. That's just, you know what I mean? That might be male chauvinistic, whatever. That's just the way I was brought up. So, anyways, so again, let's go back to the government shutdown without any doubt whatsoever, not 1% of doubt, not 2%, not 99% doubt. No, there's no doubt at all. No doubt at all. This is a government shutdown created by the Democrats to punish American citizens. And you know, they shut down the government. Why do we need those Democrats, or whichever Republicans voted not to vote for that continuing resolution as well? Why should they be working in our government when they are obstructing the processes, the basically of our government? That's an insurrection. That is an insurrection, by definition, an insurrection. Because they're just saying, no, we're not going to open up our government unless you cave to our demands, and basically allow us to steal $1 trillion from the American taxpaying citizens to go to their future voters that they hope is going to be voted if they get back in power, and basically vote for amnesty and allow all these people here that they brought in illegally, which has caused the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans and the theft of millions and billions of dollars of American taxpayer funds. No. The answer is no. Cut blank, no. No milly mouthing around, nothing. No. These people need to be in prison right now. These people out there, these people that are getting these, that have these licenses, like, I don't know, you know, these mainstream media news outlets, whatever you call them, they should be sued. They should lose their license. We're tired of this propaganda BS. Okay, so they get this every time when it comes up to this point. Remember, the Congress still hasn't passed a budget in years. And by law, they're supposed to be passing budgets and not playing with these stupid CRs all the time. So, but to open back up, or to keep the government open, the first vote the Senate had after it already passed the House, which means they had people in the Democratic Party. What? Never mind. I don't know if they needed a simple majority in the House to get that bill passed through. Listen, That bill didn't originate from President Trump. That CR, that continuing resolution to keep our government open or to reopen it after the Democrats shut it down, to use that as extortion to steal about $1 trillion from American taxpayers. They voted 13, I think 13 more times to not to open up and not to vote for that CR. That's all they had to do. And then they could have worked out all these other things behind the scenes and be like a normal congressional representative and debate that, have on the floor debates. What about this? Why don't you have all your people actually in Congress, actually there in person, instead of at home playing computer games or whatever, or in a bar or something? Why don't you actually go into those chambers and actually vote for and actually make a budget bill for once in your life? Make a bill. Then you won't have to keep on worrying about these continuing resolutions. Keep the government open, to fund the government. You pass a bill, but that's being extorted too. That's why they can't do it anymore. This is really all it is a government overthrow. It's a government overthrow. And the American people, the taxpayers, going to have to pay for this. We're going to have to suffer through this. The people that are rich, they don't care for the most part. I should be judgmental. Maybe the majority of people that are wealthy, they do care. But they're uninformed and they keep on going, putting out the stupid Democrat talking pages. So a continued resolution to continue to keep the government funded and open. The Democrats didn't sign it. Did not vote for it. Pretty much every single one of them voted now in the Senate. This is how the process works. The bills, the continued resolutions voted on in Congress. The President of the United States doesn't start that process. The continued resolution starts in the House of Representatives. They voted for it. Then it goes to the Senate. The Democrats didn't vote for it. All the Republicans needed was 5 Democrats to vote to open back up our government. Every single one of them refused to open up, I think, except for John Fetterman. It's a Democrat shutdown at that point. At the point that they refused to keep our government open and refused to sign the continuing resolution, and they thought they were going to extort, threaten Republicans, threaten American citizens, they're doing that now. With their troops, the boots on the ground right now. That's what they're doing. That's what they promised to do. I heard one idiot out there talking about cannibalism, racial cannibalism, roasting, something to do with crackers and cheese. Use your imagination as far as crackers goes. Actually, cannibalism. That's real funny, right? Sick. I don't even like to repeat some of that stuff, right? Because that's like, clickbait. They'll put out some crazy stuff. Oh, listen to what she said. Listen to what he said. And I fall into that trap sometimes and listen to that garbage. And what does it do? It takes us out of our spirit, right? Or our spirit leads because we start acting like them. We ask for forgiveness, and it's a ploy. Like, this is spiritual wickedness in high places, right? You can see it every day now. Yeah, so I don't know why this. Maybe the local stations will get them some PR points, right? They won't talk about but I don't watch. The only reason why I even watch any of these local mainstream media clips is because influencers in our community share them, and then I go, oh my god, I don't watch that stuff for that reason to begin with. But you have to let the American people know what's going on, because the the uneducated, uninformed people, they have no idea what's going on. They think it's all Donald Trump, Orange Man bad. Orange Man bad doesn't work in the Congress, the U.S. Congress. Orange Man bad doesn't work in the U.S. Senate. He's the president of the United States. The continuing resolution, which is allowing something to happen, to be funded, the government to continue to be funded, the government to stay open. The Democrats voted no in majority. Every single Republican, I believe, except maybe for one. I don't know if there was one that voted against it. Somebody please fact check me on that. Every single Democrat except for one, as far as my knowledge, John Fetterman was the only one that voted yes to keep our government open, and he voted every time yes to reopen our government. The Democrats, for the majority, have all voted no. And if the Senate would pass that, the Senate Democrats would sign it, just 5 of them, our government would already been open. But they refused. And they got the mainstream media covering their backsides, right? With their propaganda. And this is where we got to start calling our representatives and start to hold these people accountable that are in mainstream media. They're supposed to be news outlets. They need to be held accountable. No, don't just because you're CBS, you got CBS News, right? Don't pass that propaganda all over to your flunky out over at 60 Minutes and think you're going to get away with it. You should lose your license. You should lose your license. And those that are still being paid covertly by the political action group, reading those scripts from those anti-Trumpers in our government and the agencies, whatever they are, if they're part of the Five Eyes, whatever country they're from, if they're still being funded by the political action group, by the agency, they need to be defunded immediately. We need to go back and make it against the law for state-run propaganda and state-ran Psyops operations against the American people that helps incite violence. And they're getting paid, and we're paying them through a covert budget. Think about this. We're paying for the Psyops operations to continue. It's coming from our tax dollars. Go to Special Activities Center. Look what year it was basically realigned, where they can get more covertly, more compartmentalized in the political action group, right? Where they fund propaganda operations just like this. They fund with our tax dollars through the black budget that we are unaware of. Okay, from my understanding, the Gang of Eight knows about this. The Gang of Eight knows, from my understanding. The Gang of Eight knows that they're reading these scripts off in the mainstream media and they're being paid. We, the American taxpayer, are supplementing, in my opinion, through the black budget, supplementing the mainstream media because they've taken a big hit, because social media is taking over. There's some places out there that they're no different than the main MSM, right? Whether no matter what type of media, podcast or whatever they're on, right? So they're no better. But you can weed through them and you got a lot more choices, right, than we did before. So if I hear this, oh, Donald Trump is keeping the government closed and we're not going to get our food stamp because Donald Trump is bad, bad, bad. He's Orange Man bad. Give me a break. And if you got a pastor that's selling that nonsense too, you need to have a talk with your pastor about false witnessing. Because that's basically what it is. Lying. And if you got a pastor that says doesn't have a problem with lying to the American people because he or she or maybe whatever, maybe you ought to look at changing your churches or something, or talking to your congregation and basically trying to find another pastor that doesn't lie to you. You know, you think about it this way. I know the churches, I know 5051c3, 5c3, whatever they call them. I understand it. Okay. But that doesn't give you the right to go out there and lie. Well, I got it from a legitimate source. I heard that on CNN. Well, you heard the Russia stuff for what? How many years on CNN and all the mainstream medias? All parroting the same scripts. They went out there and passed that lie too, right? The same people that pass, they don't mind spreading lies. I mean, seriously, we got to be ready. We have things like 3-Eye Atlas. We didn't know that thing was going to do as far as the anomalies goes and how big it was. You know, they had the Planetary Defense, basically, committee or whatever you call it, join up, and, you know, they're talking about, you know, and some of this stuff might end up being true. We don't know. Maybe the testing is to open up testing for, say, certain type to help. You know, this is our domain. Planet Earth is our domain. We have every right to protect our planet, right, from any type of danger. So now let me talk about another program that the Democrats passed, or the president of the United States passed at the time, was Barack Obama. I'm pretty sure he got us into that joint partnership Paris Climate Accord. Let me talk about that for an example. We're talking about the Dems holding the American, trying to extort the American people, the American taxpayer, the American citizens, from basically allowing the Democrats to steal about $1 trillion. That's what it boils down to. Right? Then they say, well, it's your fault you didn't open back up the government. It's your fault because you didn't basically sign off on the Obamacare. It's your fault. You know, I still get in my tax paper where I got to prove I pay for insurance, but I think the mandate's no longer, right? But why are we funding? Why is the taxpayer funding those governments paper, whatever, that, you know, we have health care, right? Prove that we have health care. If the mandate's over. I've always had health insurance. I'm lucky because I'm a retired veteran, and I had health insurance when we had hospitals on base, you know, clinics and stuff, and doctors on base. You know, we can go see. I only remember going off base to a hospital maybe 3 times in my 21 little over 21 years of service. So, anyways, yeah. We can go check up on Rumble over there, see how everybody's going over there for the Rumble followers. Yeah, there's something ain't right here, because normally I have about 20, 30. Back in the day, like I had about 6 weeks ago, maybe not that long ago, 5 weeks ago, I had 1,600 views on one live stream. Then it started going back to normal again, right? It was 1,600 on YouTube live stream views, right? I think they're still really there's people still in these government positions and these agency positions, right? These 3-letter agency positions. And y'all know, again, I shouldn't even have to say this anymore. I'm not talking about the honest people out there that's serving our country in 3-letter agencies, DOD, whatever, active duty, whatever position, first responders, law enforcement, whatever, that are out there risking their lives to help keep us all safe. Y'all know I'm not talking about y'all at all. At all. So don't get angry with RH because you just caught the end of the live stream and you heard me say, this or that, whatever. We're talking about the bad actors in the 3-letter agencies that are still going on business as usual, attacking people. Listen, they found out, what was there, 50 million telephone intercepts or something like that? Listening in all these senators. Okay, so now I think that horse is death. Does anybody have any doubts that the Democrat Party is responsible? The Democrat, specifically the Senate, led by Chuck Schumer, are responsible for the government shutdown? They're responsible for people not getting their food stamps and their, what do you call that, SNAP benefits or whatever they are? They're solely responsible for that, right? Because they refuse to sign to keep the government open unless their demands are made. Okay, so that's about what they're trying to extort us, is amounts to about $1 trillion as far as in benefits for immigrants. A lot of them are here illegally, right? And this goes back to the Paris Climate Accord deal that Obama made with Z. What did Obama do? He basically joined a partnership with the Communist Chinese Party to go into the Paris Climate Accord with $1 trillion from the American taxpayers. $100 billion, funding it $100 billion a year. Now think of how many people would not be homeless now. How many people would not be worrying about what they're going to eat, whatever, or putting food and water or drinks on their plates, on the tables for their families. Think about how many people that would have taken care of. $1 trillion could have probably wiped out homelessness in all of America. $1 trillion we're talking about. Ending homelessness. But what happens with that money? It's federal funding, goes to the states, and guess what? They get their kickbacks. It never actually gets to where it's intended. Whatever happened to that $24 billion? I think it was $28 billion or $24 billion from the California budget that was supposed to take care of the homeless. What happened to $24 billion, Mr. What's your name? What's his name? That's how important he is as far as my opinion goes. Newsom. Governor Newsom. Where did that $24 billion budget money go that was supposed to go to the homeless. Let's ask this question again. Newsom, where did that 24 or $28 billion in funding, where did that go? Because it sure as hell didn't go to the homeless. And what did he do? He cleaned up the streets right before the Communist Chinese Party leader came into California, right? He cleaned up all the streets where you didn't have to have that poop map. So you could basically go through a poop map so you can go through an obstacle course to avoid poop, defecation on the streets of our country, needles, that kind of thing. People, indecent exposure, you know what I mean? Like that, while you're trying to go take your family to a restaurant, you got to look at all this garbage. So let's see here. $1 trillion. From my understanding, over $1 trillion to bail out Obamacare. You know who helped get Obamacare passed? It was John Roberts. John Roberts gave Barack Obama a loophole that the Obamacare would pass as far as the mandate goes. You know how? Oh, just categorize it as a tax. Categorize it as a tax. So that's the reason why I went through the IRS, whatever, and that's why if you could prove that you had health care, even though you're perfect health, right? You're perfect health. You're like 18, 19, 20 years old. You're in perfect health. And you could afford any of the health care out there, let alone Obamacare, right? Remember, you get to keep your doctor and all that BS would end up being lies. A lot of people didn't get to keep the doctor, did they? So they want us to continue on and fund that Ponzi scheme, right? And that's about everything that the pork barrel spending that the Dems want is to keep the same old system open again, where the American taxpayer, the American citizen, suffers in the end. And look at our streets. They can't even keep our streets safe. So the president of the United States has to go in and send in federal troops or the National Guard to help local police. Because remember, they were voting to defund the police. We shouldn't even have to go through all this again, what these people have done. And let me say this again. Every single one of those Democrats, they have criminally obstructed. They have conducted an insurrection, a broader criminal conspiracy to take down our government for over 30 days for their own personal benefits. This is what this is. This is special interest. This is money laundering, whatever. Pretty much everything you can think of is being involved in here for the Democrats to try to force and extort the Senate, our government, into reopening it on not programs. The Democrats. And they keep on saying, like you ask Kamala Harris or any of these stupid libs out there. That's right, I call her stupid because I think she is stupid. She had a lick of sense. She could have gone out there and go, well, you know, let's have a vote at the DNC. Let's have a vote. Y'all want me to go in there and vote? Remember when she's running for the primary, she didn't even win a single state. She had to drop out. She had like 1% of the vote. Remember that? So they selected her the VP, and they took Biden out. They should have done that a long time ago. That was their fault. They should have 25th Amendment him, right? Then who would have been president at the time? Kamala, but they're not very smart, are they? And maybe if she'd done a good job, she could have won. But I don't think so. I think she blew that wide open on herself. I don't think she'd have had. She wasn't popular. What makes us think that Kamala Harris was popular enough to be elected as president when she couldn't even get 1%, only like 1% of the vote to be the candidate, the DNC selection to be president, to run for president to begin with. Biden beat her out. And I think there's a reason for that. Because it was Biden. It was the Biden third term, right? I've already read the Snoop's comms to the Dems, basically saying Obama's going to be reelected through his vice president position, the vice president position. They didn't mean him. The third update on Snoop's on that article, go read it for yourself. They changed the date again. So it messed me up where I actually proved this before. Those were comms because they put those comms out in 20, what was it? 2016, I think it was. Yeah, Snopes put out those articles in 2016, I believe it was. Basically, how Obama's going to get in the presidency. Then they swapped it up after Obama's 2 terms, right? The third run, they said, okay, we're going to get him in under the basically Obama's going to be the vice president, right? But he never was going to be the president. He didn't want to be the president again. He didn't want to be the vice president. So everybody knew, okay, if you elect Biden, you're really electing Barack Obama because he was the one in charge for those 4 years from January 20th, 2021 to January 20th, 2025. Obama was the one running the show for those 4 years. Obama on steroids. Biden did everything. Obama did everything through his vice president that he ever could dream about doing as president. He would have not been able to get a lot of those things passed because he'd have had, he'd have a whole lot of, let's just say, roadblocks, official, lawful roadblocks I'm talking about. Okay. So what about that UFO there? This aircraft was spotted in Turkey over some water. I shared this before and on a live stream before, and I provided the source reference. I forgot the name of the source reference, but this was actually a recorded video of a guy, and they put that, up on YouTube. So, you know what I mean? Yeah, every single one of those government officials that are insurrectionists that have continued not to vote to reopen our government so they can go back in behind the scenes and renegotiate these policies, these healthcare and all that other stuff. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what their job is. They're not doing their job and they don't have the government open. They should lose their paycheck. They should lose their job. How many people out there can just walk off your job for over 30 days and say, nope? Well, for you to come into your job, you got to sign this, you got to sign this, what your job responsibility is supposed to be, whatever. And how many jobs out there, how many employers out there would keep you on the job if you go, Well, I'm not going to sign that contract with you. I'm not going to sign that job. Okay, you basically, I know I'm, and you're going to give me in writing. You know what your job is, right? You don't want to. You don't want to sign that. That you know what your responsibilities are at work. You don't want to sign it, and I keep calling you for over 30 days, and you don't want to sign. How many employers do you think would call that employee back up for over 30 days? Hey, please come into work and sign this. Do you think they would be paid for not showing up at work? Or if they're on salary, you think, how long do you think that will last? A day? Maybe? Okay, I got something that came up at home, whatever. Okay, you got something that came up at home. Got to take your daughter to the doctor's office, whatever. Okay, I understand. But as soon as you can get back into work, now you need to keep contact with me, right? So you got to come in and sign this paper before you're allowed to work here anymore. So they haven't basically voted for the continuing resolution. They should be paid right now. And that as far as an insurrection, look up an insurrection. They've criminally obstructed the function of our government, and to include national security. This is how dangerous this is. Far as ATC, air traffic control, and everything you can think of. National defense, think about it. That means these Democrats in Senate and a lot of them in the House, and probably some that are Republicans too, but they don't show their face. They go along with the crowd, right? They go along to keep their job. At least they're going through the motions. Could you imagine that? I call my boss up, or my boss tells me, come in. Hey, come in, RH. We got you to sign this task list letter before you're allowed to return, and you gotta read this safety notice, whatever. Maybe there's a new safety concern at work. Maybe somebody just got hurt. Okay, before you can start your job again, before you get back on the clock, whatever. If you sign it, you come in and sign it, you'll get paid for it. Okay, because that's a requirement for it. No, I'm not going to do that. Because I don't like this person looks like over there in that lumber section or whatever over there, and I don't like it, and I don't want to work with him. What? Well, what does this individual cause you? Did he cause you any problems? She said, has he made any disparaging, or she made any disparaging remarks against you? Are they not cooperating with you to help you in your section? No. I just don't like that person. I don't want to work with them, so I don't want to perform that function. How many employers out there would go, okay, that's fine. You can come into work. You don't have to fill out that, but no, you got to sign that safety letter. Okay. Knowing that you've been briefed about this safety issue, and make sure you take necessary precautions. You got to wear your hard hat. Okay. You got to wear your hard hat on the job. Well, I don't like it. My hairdo is, I got this, what you call it, my hairdo, and I got this vibe going on with my hairdo, and I can't wear that helmet. I can't wear that hard helmet. How many employers you think are going to say, well, that's okay. That's fine. You don't like that helmet, you don't have to wear it. But what about all those other people that have to wear it? That's part of their job. It's a safety requirement to wear your hard hat. Well, I don't like it. It's gonna mess up my weave I got going on. I got some, what you call those? Uh, hold on a second. Yeah, extensions. I had to get some advice from somebody that knows a lot more about that than I do. Hair extensions, yeah. Well, that hard helmet will it's gonna mess up my extensions. Apologize for that, though. Yeah, uh, yeah. So obviously, it's ridiculous. These people will come in and basically sign what they're responsible for, or vote for the resolution to keep their own job going. Then they forfeit their job, right? So please go read my statement on True Social at area 111 without the space. Okay. And please read that. And if you want to, share it. Now, for Facebook followers, I shared that over there too. All right. So that's basically all I have tonight. Is any? Oh, yes, that's right. Thanks a lot for Mrs. RH for reminding me, Miss. But anyways, yeah, I just watched a live stream from Nino uh, on YouTube, and it was talking about microwave microwave weapons, whatever microwave. I don't know if they call them weapons of mass destruction. Oh, I want to mention this too as well. There's a rumor out there, a theory out there that basically the weapons of mass destruction that basically we went in to basically it wasn't Saddam Hussein's. Uh, if you go into the story or legend or folklore about what do you call that? The Epic of Gilgamesh. Hold on a second. I gotta find this before I make a mistake. Now they believe that Gilgamesh. There's a lot of people that believe that Gilgamesh um, had a weapon that was potentially technologically advanced that actually could destroy the world or something to do with longevity. Something to do with longevity, right? Something, I don't know if it's like in the line of med beds or whatever, but some type of technology that they got from the fallen angels or the Anunnaki or the, I don't know, I can't remember all these names, Raphael or what's the other group? There's like three different groups, if I remember correctly. Nephilim, Nephilim. Okay, the Nephilim, Rapha like the singular, and Raphaim as plural, and the Anunnaki, I guess it is, or the fallen angels, right? The fallen angel technology that people had before the flood, right? And some of that technology could have passed over, or they could have had other groups of angels could have left their estate and did what the other groups of angels did before the flood when they came down, saw that the daughters of men were fair, and they chose them wives of all which they chose. You know what I mean? So they had that technology, right? So the sons of God or the angels of God, they had, we'd have to say that they definitely have a lot higher uh, technological advancements than we do. And I'll just use an example: the pyramids. And I don't want to go into much information about the pyramids, but if they had the capability to build those type of megalithic type structures, uh, and remember the Tower of Babel, that was after the flood, so they had the technology there too. Imagine what they had far as technology, far as uh, interstellar travel, possibly, maybe even uh, just space travel in our solar system, maybe sending out, uh, creating colonies in other solar systems in the universe. Now, I don't know, but anyways, I like for people to remember how Elijah was taken up, right? Elijah was taken up, remember, in that craft. And also in Acts chapter 1, verse 11, remember when the disciples were watching Jesus, or Yeshua as I call him, being taken up and disappearing in the clouds. Remember those two men or two angels in white apparel said, why are you basically, let me read it, because I don't like to paraphrase when I'm reading from the Bible or trying to quote from the Bible. Let's just go right to it. Okay? So there's definitely have to be means of travel. And if it was spiritual, if the disciples were there and they could see Jesus or Yeshua physically, you could see his body, then you see him being taken up. So wouldn't that require a means of travel, right? It would require a means of travel, air travel, or air and space travel, right? So let's go to Acts chapter 1, verse 11, real quick, and we're going to get to that topic. It's very, very important. And if you got problems with what people say is tendonitis, and got problems with dizziness and other kinds, I'm going to talk about that after this. Okay, so now this, if there happens to be a UFO out there or whatever, if Three Eye Atlas ended up being a uh, a alien type spacecraft or whatever, or made by extraterrestrials or aliens, whatever, um, yeah, that's not going to weaken my faith. Why should it weaken our faith? Why would we go around out there and act like, go into hysterics, panic, whatever? Seems like that's what they want us to do, right? The bad actors out there, those fallen ones, whatever, or those demonic spirits out there that trying to enter us into, after trying to, remember, their team spirit isn't like ours. So Acts chapter 1, verse 11. I'm actually going to start a little bit earlier to give a little bit of background. Okay, this is Acts chapter 1, beginning with verse 4. And being assembled together with them, commanded them that they should not depart from Jerusalem, but wait for the promise of the Father, which saith he, Ye have heard of me, for John truly baptized with water, but ye shall be baptized with the Holy Ghost not many days hence. When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? And he said unto them, It is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power, but ye shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost is come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and unto the uttermost part of the earth. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Yeshua, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. So, like Elijah being taken up, right? Jesus was taken up and into the clouds, right? And he disappeared out of their sight. So that means he was just, I don't know. I don't think he would sprout wings and just fly up there into the cloud, right? Maybe they could see his body while it's being teleported into a cloud, and maybe he went into a spaceship, right? Or some type of means of travel. Maybe to get aboard a mothership. Who knows? Who knows? So, if for a lot of people that are very close-minded about these topics, think about the pyramids. Those were antediluvian. That was before the flood, right? Pre-flood technology, and that basically archaeologists have theorized that those pyramids were built before a flood, and they show water erosion on the structures like of the Sphinx, whatever, in that area of the Great Pyramids in Egypt. So with that technology, wouldn't we think that they also had whoever gave that technology to those that built those pyramids, right? Don't we think they could not give them the technology? Don't we think that the Son of God would also have that same technology to basically interstellar travel? I got, I'm not going to say interstellar, but I have some personal life experiences about something like that, and maybe one day I'll talk about it. And this is another thing about some of these topics. Why would we want to lie? Those in our community. I mean, seriously, why would you want to lie about anything? I'm not talking about making a joke or whatever, kidding around, that kind of thing. But something really serious, like, you know, the dangers that we could face with some type of alien type um, technology. I think that's under control. Now, so remember, only a third of the angels that were basically kicked out of heaven, only a third of Satan and his team was kicked out of heaven. That was only a third that rebelled. So after that happened, I don't know if there were some that rebelled or whatever, left their first estate, whatever, and came down, and their spirit entered in certain people, and then they got married with, the daughters of men, and they had technology, and they could take it with them spiritually. Let me just say this: what I think pretty much everybody has experienced a dream. everybody here in this chat that's listening to this live stream now, listen to RH talk. I'm pretty sure every single one of you have had dreams before. Now, some of those dreams can be very realistic. Some of those dreams can be very vivid, as far as imagery, as far as the sounds you hear, and everything. Right? I used to, when I was a kid, I used to have this dream all the time of flying, like, I mean, like leaving my body, but, I definitely wasn't where I was flying at. I knew exactly where I was flying, like an angel, you could say, right? In the spirit. I was flying over an area. Let me see if I can remember. Yeah, I was on a street. I think it was by Swanee Avenue, and you go to, it's either Florida Avenue or Nebraska Avenue, and there was a church there. And I remember just flying over there at nighttime. It was really weird, and I think I had that same dream like 2 or 3 times. So it was weird. It was very realistic. It was kind of weird at nighttime too. And of course, we've all had other dreams, right? Dreams that we have that were, you wake up, my God, like it's a bad dream, whatever. And you wake up and it's so realistic, you're all worked up, whatever, your heart's beating faster and that kind of thing. It's really, really a horrible dream. And how realistic it was. If it wasn't realistic, you wouldn't be that upset. Your body wouldn't react that way, correct? So, if you travel in that way, or somebody's basically drawing you up or taking you up, you don't have a choice. And your physical body's going to stay behind. Your spiritual body's going to leave. And what your physical body feels, as far as the pain, is detached from your spiritual body. But you have full consciousness of your spiritual body. You can see, you can move. Once you get to that location, it's like teleportation, right? Once you get to that location, you can move again. Your body's still back in, like where mine was, in my dorm room. It had barracks that looked just like college dorm rooms when I was stationed at Tyndall. So that pain, everything relating to that, while you're sleeping, whatever, you go into that state there and you go through it like a void, and then you end up somewhere. You can move around. You can see. I mean, I could go to it through it a little bit in more detail, but it'll be like it'll almost be copyrighted myself. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I talk about certain things like this, and the only way I can relate to people that, like myself, wouldn't even believe anything, I would think this would be hocus pocus to even listen to, right? Hocus pocus, alakazam, whatever. But anyway, so this kind of like, it's good because it kind of like transitions. It's good transition to about what I'm talking about now. A lot of people probably think this is BS, but this has actually happened. And let me look up this. Let me look this up. We're talking look this up, not look it up. Golly, that's kind of gross. Oh, I wonder if they affect you when you're. Yeah, they can affect you really. Yeah, okay. So Gilgamesh, the thing I was talking about, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a hero in ancient Mesopotamian mythology and the protagonist of the Epic of Gilgamesh, an epic poem written in Akkadian during the late second millennium BC. Okay, he was possibly, it says, I think it's pretty much this guy existed, right? Because they already have all the tablets and all that stuff. But anyways, they thought that Gilgamesh had had a weapon, a highly technologically advanced weapon that could possibly either cause the whole planet to basically be engulfed in fire. Use your imagination what type of weapon that could be, and or he had something on the lines of something similar to um, what we call med beds. Okay, so either way, you know, as you can get it. Remember, he was a giant, right? And we believe that was post flood, right? After the flood, Gilgamesh, and they believe Gilgamesh actually ended up was before Nimrod. And remember how they built the Tower of Babel, and how that, God said, if they're able to do this, basically trying to build a pyramid or tower into heaven, if they're able to do this, imagine what else they could do, right? So, did Nimrod actually have, or Gilgamesh actually have, a highly technological advanced weapon that they got from either the fallen angels or other angels that rebelled against God later, after the flood? So, anyways, there's this really theory, and it's a believable theory, that possibly we went into Iraq again on the grounds of weapons of mass destruction to actually find that sarcophagus and dig that up and make sure that that highly advanced technological weapon did not fall in the wrong hands. And there's also a theory, well, not a theory, the Baghdad Museum had clay tablets about that certain subject, far as Gilgamesh is concerned. Okay, so when the war started, or right before the war started, again, I think it was either Desert Storm or before. I think it was in 2003, right? When we went back into Iraq based on the grounds of weapons of mass destruction. Now, that could possibly be the weapon of mass destruction that they were referring to. Now, the Baghdad Museum that had these Sumerian tablets and basically had it documented, those were in the Baghdad Museum. Okay. Now, a very, very advanced, highly advanced team got into that museum and took all those tablets with them. And they left, I heard they left a lot of gold and silver. So they wasn't looking for the gold or silver. They were looking for, that was a very focused covert operation to get those tablets, right? To bring them back to our control, to make sure that weapon, that possibly the weapon, maybe the codes to basically activate that weapon was in those Sumerian tablets. Okay, so let me go back and so remember, Gilgamesh was the king of Uruk, right? And that's up and around in the Iraq area. So there's very interesting stuff, and I believe there's a lot to it. And again, based on these huge megalithic type pyramids all around the world, I think there are these pyramids on all 7 continents, to include Antarctica as well. Now, I got some firsthand knowledge about things about Antarctica through my dad, because he served in Operation Deep Freeze twice. He led a small expedition up to the mountain, top of the Mount Erebus, while he was there. He volunteered to go. A Tampa boy, he says, never seen snow. He volunteered in the Navy to go to Antarctica, and that's exactly what he did. I think he had 2 tours, but because of his mountain climbing experience, his basically captain, R.K. Irving, basically asked him if he would like to lead them up to the summit of Mount Erebus, so a geologist could basically get samples and bring it back down for that. Remember, Operation uh, Deep Freeze was the largest scientific expedition in the history of this planet. So it wasn't. Now, also remember, there's a lot of rumors about possibly there being some skirmishes between U.S. forces, naval forces, and Nazi forces in Antarctica. Now, that place in particular we're talking about, as far as the German place in Antarctica, would be called Neuschwabenstein. Neuschwabenstein. So let me go here and look at that real quick. Neuschwabenstein. New Schwabenstein, right? You got Neuschwanstein? No, New Schwabenstein. Okay, it might have been New Schwabenland in Antarctica, okay? New Schwabenland. New Schwabia. Okay, so New Schwabia, that's Wikipedia, you can look it up. It's Norwegian, that's the name, is Norwegian and German. New Schwabenland was an area of Antarctica explored with the intention to claim it by Nazi Germany between 1938 and 1939. Within the Norwegian territorial claim of Queen Maud Land, the region was named after the expedition ship Schwabenland, itself named after the German region of Swabia. Although the name New Swabia is occasionally mentioned in historical context, is not an officially recognized cartographic name in modern use. The, the area now, okay, hold on a second. So, anyways, you can read that. Now it says it was between 1989, 1938, I think, in 1980, 1939. Okay, between 1938 and 1939, I do believe that Germany, either right after the war ended or before it ended, I do believe they had submarines there that went there, and they had ships already there stationed. And they could have moved a lot of things. A lot of that theft of a lot of stuff that was stolen during World War II might have been preserved there, hid there, right? So you don't hear too much about that though, right? Okay. Okay. Although the name New Schwabe is occasionally mentioned in historical context, it is not an officially recognized cartographic name in modern use. The area now is part of Queen Maud Land, governed under the Antarctic Treaty System. So Norway basically controls it now. I don't know if they gave any of those areas back to Germany later on after the war was over. All I see is the German Schwarzsticker map when you're looking at this. They got the British Empire. Let's see. Expeditions. See, they had an expedition back. Norway had an expedition to Antarctica back in from 1910 to 1912. Amundsen expedition. United States, we had an expedition. Admiral Byrd, remember 1928 to 1930, Byrd's first expedition. 1934, Byrd's second expedition. 1939, 1941, United States Antarctica Service Expedition. 1946 to 47, Operation High Jump. Okay, that was led by Admiral Byrd again. Okay, 1947, 1948, Operation Windmill. 1947, 1948, Rhone Expedition. 1955 to 1956, Operation Deep Freeze 1. Okay, I believe my dad was in Operation Deep Freeze 2 and 3, or 3 and 4. And 1955 to present, Operation Deep Freeze. So I guess every year we have an expedition. And I think the Air Force pretty much runs that expedition now. Let's see now, under Russia. 1955 to 1957, First Soviet Antarctica Expedition. 1956 to 1958, Second Soviet Antarctica Expedition. International. I don't know what this is. 1949, 1952, MBSX, Maudheim Expedition. So I guess multinational individuals played part in that expedition. I have to look it up. Let me see. Let me click on it. This is kind of interesting to me. Norwegian, British, Swedish Antarctica Expedition. Okay, that's NBSX. Norwegian, British, Swedish Antarctic Expedition that was held between 1949 to 1952. Okay, so now after the live stream is over, what I'll do is I'll share that link between Nino and the lady that he was interviewing about microwave direct energy weapons. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about this. This has already happened. This is not some type of wild weird conspiracy theory or whatever. Okay. Now you can look this up for yourself. Havana syndrome. Havana syndrome. There's even a 60 Minutes on it, right? I wouldn't recommend you go there after this interview they had with Trump. That's just sickening what that lady was doing. Okay, Havana syndrome, also known as anomalous health incidents, is a disputed medical condition. Disputed now. Disputed, really? It's undisputed now by those people that basically they even they brought in experimental rats with people there, staff there, right? From my understanding, they were doing tests, right, as far as the damages that this microwave energy or this frequency was causing these people, right? Starting in 2016 in about a dozen overseas locations, U.S. and Canada, government officials and their families reported syndromes associated with a perceived localized loud sound. The symptoms lasted for months and included disabling cognitive problems, balance, dizziness, insomnia, and headaches. Havana syndrome is not officially recognized as a disease by the medical community. A number of government and non-government agencies have conducted investigations at AHIs, including the State Department, University of Pennsylvania Behavioral Analysis Unit, JASON, Centers of Disease Control, Department of Defense, Central Intelligence Agency, National Academies of Sciences, Engineering and Medicine, Cuban Academy of Sciences, 7 intelligence agencies under the auspice of the Office of Director of National Intelligence. That's in 2023. I wonder who was in charge then, right? And National Institute of Health, 2024. Several news organizations also conducted investigations. Official investigations have provided various theories on the cause of AHI, but there is no consensus. Theories include direct energy weapons, psychological and social causes, and toxic chemicals. However, no cause has been established. Okay, now this is the reason why I want to find, let me see if I can find Nino's stuff there, because that's very, very, I don't like the way it's written. Stand by. Stand by. I'm going to find that link for y'all. Hopefully I don't lose the live stream in the process. Okay, here's the video on YouTube. The title of is from David Nino Rodriguez's channel on YouTube. You're not crazy. Microwave weapons being used against Okay. If you type in that much, you can get to it. Used against us. Okay, this is only 1 day ago. So this lady here has a lot of research. She's a wealth of information on this subject here, as far as Havana syndrome. Now, I do have a problem of what people call tendinitis. Okay, have problems, a lot of problems with sleeping, insomnia, and it's gotten worse. Sometimes, it's really crazy as far as my sleep habits go now, and the ringing is almost not constant. And when Ms. RH leaves the house here and just goes to her mom's, she doesn't have that ringing sound in her ear anymore. When I leave this place here and I leave out of this area where I'm at, where I believe these energies are directed or the way they got it set up, it might not be, it could be 5G. It might be some type of transmitter receiver thing that's the energy's really, and it's directed because I could see a tower directly from where I'm at. Actually, you can see where they cleared trees and have like a direct path right to that tower. And I guess the only thing I'm thinking is it's crazy. It makes you angry, because you get irritable when you lose sleep a lot. I'm not saying that's what it's caused, but why, when I leave this place and go somewhere else out of that network, why is that sound a lot less, quieter, or absent totally? Why is when Mrs. RH goes across the street, it disappears? And see, they're just going to say, "Oh, that's just tendonitis. We got a pill for you, right?" So please take this serious to help protect yourselves and your loved ones, and go listen to this information. If you're experiencing also nausea, and when you're sitting there thinking there's problems with cognitive issues. I'm having cognitive issues, and really I was sharp as a whip. Sometimes I'm slurring my words. You can probably hear it right now. And I do believe whatever this energy is coming in and basically impacting the way I think, the way I talk, the way, way I act. I really think there's something here. And there might not be any other recourse but to sell this home and move out. Now, I have a friend, he went by Rage in the Cage. I don't know if anybody in this community here or anybody listening remembers Rage in the Cage. One of my Canadian friends, I have other Canadian friends as well, okay, that basically he had to leave where he was living. He had to sell whatever he's living, go find somebody to live with until he got the money together to find his own place. I think he might have had to leave his job. But based on his health, it was getting so bad, he couldn't stand it anymore. He had to get out, right? And I believe that they are targeting us, right? And a lot of people, no, I'm normally a really positive person. Even when I'm talking about this, I'm not really that angry like I should be if there's something nefarious going on. But I know I've been targeted. I know I've been targeted because I got the letter from the VA. And I'll talk about that. You know, when you lie to law enforcement, you lie and you falsify a warrant just so because you don't like what RH has to say, you get caught, you should be held accountable. You should spend some jail time. I think at least a year, 1 year, maybe 6 months. And I think these people will think twice about doing this to good American citizens again. They're going to have to be held accountable. All these people that hacked into these Senate computers, right? You know, Jack Smith, remember during that thing? Remember the corrupt J6 committee, unselect committee? Remember that committee? Those corrupt people, what they did, they should be held accountable. Okay, far as the Havana syndrome, attack on diplomats, 20 plus diplomats affected. Sonic attack, unlikely. Microwave weapon, more likely. Injuries vary markedly. Okay, that's in Havana, Cuba. Now, let's see what this was actually on CNN. Okay, so if you go to Wikipedia, go, oh, there's a nothing burger there, right? That's just some conspiracy theory. This has been going on for a long time now. Okay, and you'll see the text on the bottom of the screen for CNN when you're going through that Nino's interview with the lady. I forgot what her name is. Pardon me for that, but you'll get it when you go view it. New York Times. New details. New York Times. Investigator says microwave weapons likely used in attacks. CNN Havana-based correspondent Patrick Opman is talking about that. Okay. Now they got a picture of the map. So remember, they got spy ships right out in our Gulf. Remember, are they playing around? So could these people be outsourced? They were outsourced individuals or an organization that are basically doing this to people that don't support communism, right? So they're targeting individuals like myself and others. Hey, listen, this isn't some made up thing, right? Because this isn't some clickbait deal. So I've talked about all the topics I put in the title of tonight's live stream, right? You didn't have to wait the whole live stream to hear what I was going to talk about as far as the title goes, right? No, it's in sections, and you know I can get a lot more professional style like live stream setup, but I'm going to be happy when I get away from these attacks because it's unbearable. And I never slurred my voice before. Even drinking, even getting, you know, what you say tipsy back in the day, right? Or a little bit, you know, a buzz, whatever, drinking liquor at a party, whatever, or doing whatever you did when we were growing up back then. Yeah, I never slurred my words like this. I never forgot. I see a lot of major influences doing the same thing. So they switched tactics, huh? Did they switch tactics on us? So maybe that will be the next live stream. Instead of censoring us and deplatforming us, they're just going right at us, making us unable to remember. Remember, cognitive. You lose your cognitive functions. You forget what you're even going to talk about. How many times have you heard that? Probably on this one live stream tonight, 3 or 4 times. But I circle back, right? I circle back. Make sure I talked about all the subjects that I put in my title. Okay, so microwave weapons likely used in an attack. So they showed that video on the Nino's live stream. David Nino Rodriguez. Nino. You're not crazy. Nino's saying to me, I'm not crazy. microwaves, weapons being used against us? Well, something is. Yeah, and all these people getting strokes. Helen getting a stroke. Miss, my neighbor behind me got in a stroke. Had a stroke. His sister had to start helping him. He was living on their property. Had like I don't know how many acres and a mobile home, and he had like a little ranch. Had a donkey and a horse, and he was healthy. And they're all on that same line, like line of sight where we can see that tower. Like I said, Mrs. RH, when she leaves here, she goes just across the street. For some reason, she doesn't hear that ringing over there. Isn't that true? Yes or no? You gotta speak up louder. Here's my witness, live witness, right here.
I don't hear it there, no. But I don't hear it at the store either. I'm going away.
So when she's at her mom's house, she doesn't hear the ringing in her ear.
And another 60-year-old lady had a stroke over there too. Somebody else now.
And when you go to the grocery store, you don't hear that ringing either. Okay, so there's the second witness. I'm one witness. Remember, there's two witnesses. So they're doing this stuff, and don't believe they've quit censoring us, deplatforming us. Look, that it's because they've lost power right now, and there's threats. So, oh well, we got our channels. But what are we doing when major influencers? I don't call myself a major influencer. What are we doing? What are all the major influencers doing? Oh, I got an inside source, right? I got an inside President Trump inner circle source that says we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And they're going out there to contravene, right? To throw monkey wrenches in the plan, right? To gerrymander, to monkey around. These people have not changed. They've gotten worse. They maybe changed their tactics as far as being so visually apparent. So they're very good at that shell game with their money laundering to put their boots on the ground, right? You'll see some of the same people at all these riots. So they're getting all our tactics, they're putting them together, and we think we got all this freedom. Well, we voted. I think the landslide was a whole lot worse for them. I really do believe that we got, maybe they have 40%, maybe 40%, if that. I'm starting to believe that they don't even have that anymore. If they lost their free antenna TV propaganda and their Psyops operation, that would put a big blow. And then, these people would have to go to these influencers, and they're going to have to wake up. We're going to have to wake up as a people. You know what I mean? We're going to have to wake up as a people. We got to fight this tyranny. If not, we're going to lose our country. We're going to lose. So, anyways, let me go look. I'm going to check and see if there's anything breaking going on now. So yeah, go check out David Nino Rodriguez. By the way, David Nino doesn't know me. He used to be a boxer, heavyweight, I think champion of the world. I don't know how many times, once or twice, or you know. But anyways, yeah, go follow Nino if you can. Okay, so now I know it's only 4 people or 3 people, including myself here on YouTube, but if you share the live stream, you know, and thank you for all the prayers, Tracy and anybody else that's prays. I believe in prayer 100%. Okay. Now I did want to mention this again. And you've probably heard me say this multiple times on my channel, and I'm gonna provide the reason why I say what I do sometimes, as far as that goes. Okay, stand by. The coup to overthrow our president has not stopped. They're just basically changing up tactics, changing up operations, changing up possible target sites. These people haven't changed, right? They haven't changed. Remember, if you don't have a godlike conscience, you don't have the spirit, that type of spirit, the Holy Spirit in these people, they don't abide by the same set of rules we do, right? They don't believe that there's anything wrong with lying if you don't like that person, right? They can lie on demand. And that's what this Democrat Party's done. Now, be honest, if the Republican Party actually did that and they were pro-death, right? Which is number one, thou shalt not what? Murder, right? Remember? If the Republican Party switched over from pro-life to pro-murder, I wouldn't take that mark anymore. I wouldn't mark them up when I go into that booth, right? That's a mark, people. Remember that. Remember how important this is. Don't let them bamboozle you in all these little chicanery, whatever. I'm not lecturing anybody here. Believe I've been bamboozled a couple times in my life, at least a couple. I don't know how many times. Kind of probably embarrassing if I knew the real number of how many times I've been bamboozled, especially as a younger adult, whatever. But anyways, let's go. Um, okay. Thought I had a new chat on YouTube there, and I went back and okay, so I want to go to those Bible verses real quick. Remember, I always like to pray in private, and that's the reason. Listen, just because you believe in prayer in private, and those people using the devil knows the scriptures probably better than anybody else out there, except for, of course, the Word of God, right? God Himself, God our Father and His Son. You know, that devil, he knows the scriptures, right? He can quote them probably frontwards and backwards to people. And see, they'll use their side, those side. You can't believe, can you believe that you're a Christian and you vote for pro-death? You belong to a party of pro-death? And I mean, I'm not trying to disparage people This isn't the Democrat Party of my great grandparents or my grandparents, for that goes. You know, the Democratic Party stood behind blue collar workers, right? Where are they at now? They don't stand behind blue collar workers. They stand behind themselves, or they would have opened the government up. Okay, so one wonder why we get such small cost of living cost of living raises, right? We got inflation, and they say it's only like 6%. It went up. It skyrocketed. Man, I tell you, like my groceries went from like $200 every couple of weeks to like $300. And you know, it's not really getting. I'm not like eating lobster tails and eating like, you know, filet mignon and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Try to eat healthy. That's about it. But well, Miss RH was a great cook here, and she got took out of commission there in her stroke. So we gotta, I gotta do what you gotta do, right? Okay, so I promised this is going to be in Matthew chapter 6. Remember how I keep talking about when people talk about praying? Yeah, if there's somebody that needs praying, you know, in the chat, you know, their family, whatever, for whatever reason, I don't mind praying online, but I want just to make this known what the Bible talks about this. We're not talking about people like in our community, right? Hold on a second. Stand by. Testing one. Good. We're still alive. Remember, I'm looking up the verses. It's in Matthew chapter 6. I'm getting there now, and I'll read the scriptures. So y'all could follow up on me. You know, it's good to read these verses out loud. That does have power. Okay. Now, just because a person prays in private, you know, doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to be gifted to move mountains. So there was a congressional person that said that, made that statement, and that was, in my opinion, inappropriate. But they're probably testing her, or whatever, you know, because it goes right here in there, and they're probably trying to take away prayer in the like pre-opening of the congressional session. That's probably what they're up to. Remember, the devil knows the Bible back and forth. So, yeah, he could probably read it backwards. You know what I mean? Okay, so Matthew chapter 6, verse 1. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men to be seen of them, right? Otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. like alms, like, okay, for example, like giving charity. Like I talked about that earlier, talking about helping people when I can. So we don't want to go out there and be braggarts, right? Just, hey, you need help and we're going to give you help. Just don't mention my name, right? Therefore, when thou dost thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. And when thou prayest, okay? Remember, this is Yeshua. This is the red, right? Let me get to the. See, it doesn't show it on this. I'm on uh, Matthew 6 KJV Bible Hub, okay? And it doesn't show that this is red letters, which means it's the Son of God speaking. So this is all in red, right? In my KJV. That means Yeshua, our true Messiah, is speaking this. Okay, so, but when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and the Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. Be not ye therefore like unto them, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. After this manner, therefore, pray ye. Okay, this is Yeshua, our true Messiah, telling us how to pray and who to pray to. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. For if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespass, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head, and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in secret, and my Father, thy Father which seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. Lay not up for yourself treasures upon the earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. Okay, so basically, this is the reason why I like prayer in private, and nothing against, not judging anybody else out there. I just like to make y'all aware of those that believe that, never mind, that it's some type of wrong to ask for prayer in private. Okay, so, but that doesn't mean that I don't accept prayer. I accept prayer. If anybody wants to pray for me in this household, especially what we're going through now with this this stuff that we're being hit with, it's horrible. Believe me, it's horrible. So bad where it's trying to run me out of my own home. And those people that are doing this, they need to be held accountable. And I don't care who they're doing it to. I don't care if that person is that you don't like. If you're resulting to measures like this, now if it's somebody that you caught up into a criminal type activities, that's something different. That's on that individual. And you got a lawful warrant, right? We're not talking about people here illegally. They don't have the same rights as U.S. citizens. And those that say they have constitutional rights when they're not even citizens and they didn't even come in the proper way legally, they broke our immigration laws. That's a felony. For us, that would be a felony, right? People trafficking others, that's a felony. Okay, so, and remember, when we can, it doesn't matter if there's somebody out there that needs help as far as food or whatever. Ask. Go to a church. Go to a church. Oh, also, before you start eating foods at some type from a food bank, make sure, look at the expiration date on the cans, because I'm not a doctor, nothing like this or anything like that, but and don't put cans in the refrigerator. You can get botulism. I know a lot of people aren't taught that, but I was taught that as a kid. Now, any of this information, remember, I'm not giving medical advice. Let's stop that BS before it starts. I'm not a doctor. These are just based off of life experiences and what my my parents have told me not to do. Don't put metal pots with your food in it in the refrigerator. You can get botulism. Okay? And check the expiration dates on your foods. Even when you go shopping, before you put something in your cart, look at the expiration date, because I have bought food off the shelf and didn't think about it. I got home, I opened it up, it was already molded. Okay? Check your food, even though you got the expiration date, that it's still good. You bought it Best Buy, whatever, Best Buy, B-U-Y, not buy like purchasing, right? Okay, so remember, the transport to get that product into the grocery stores, maybe the air conditioner, maybe the freezer broke or whatever, right? And it got rotten, whatever, on the way to the grocery store. So make sure you look at the expiration date. Like I said, I've actually got I won't name well, maybe I should. This is Sargento's cheese, right? It's supposed to be 100% pure cheese. I opened up that package and it wasn't even bad for like 2 months away, right? Over a month away. It wasn't even supposed to be expired, right? It's still good for like a couple months. It was already molded in the package. So be careful. Be careful about the products you see now. And think about how many hands handles our food in that chain of custody or whatever during that distribution process, however you call it. So anyways, that's all I wanted to cover tonight. I hope this helps out. Let me get back to Rumble real quick. Hopefully we're still live there. So again, how to pray, who to pray to, from the Son of God himself. That's in Matthew chapter 6. Okay. What in the world now? Okay, I'll get to refresh Rumble. It still says I'm live. Wow. Okay, yeah, I did say I was going to see if there's anything major going on. I'm going to check before I end the live stream. Stand by. No, this is something I've already gone 3 hours. I know I have long live streams. You know, remember you can speed that up if you got a phone, whatever. You can go to the settings. You can speed up the live stream a little bit, or not where I sound like. Well, if you like to listen to like me sounding like Mickey Mouse or the Chipmunks, I guess you could do that. That'd be cool. I might try to do that myself. You know. So we are still live on Rumble. That's good. And it says we're still live on YouTube after 3 hours. Most amount of people we had at one time viewing was 7 people. So please share this live stream. Okay, stand by. Okay. So again, I talked about this. Senate Democrats have now voted 13 times to not fund the food stamp program, also known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Bottom line, okay, let's see. Okay, now Plan A. Nom Donnie. So I heard they're going to wait till they're going to open Democrats are going to wait till after the elections are over to open the government. They should be charged with an insurrection because we could tell that they're doing this only for their own personal interest, right? Looks like one of the trade towers there with a cross on it, and then the next thing you see, ball of fire. U.S. Department of Agriculture website. This is directly from the official government website. The United States Department of Agriculture features a blunt message about food stamps. SNAP EBT. Here's the screenshot. Senate Democrats have now voted 13 times to not fund the food stamp program, also known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Bottom line, the well has run dry. At this time, there will be no benefits issued November 1st. We are approaching an inflection point for Senate Democrats. They can continue to hold out for health care for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures, or reopen the government so mothers, babies, and the most vulnerable amongst us can receive critical nutrition assistance. Okay, so stand by. See what else is going on. Okay. Yeah, we're doing nuclear test again. That's back on because other countries are doing that. That has happened before in times when, especially when you got going on what's going on in Ukraine. Ukraine hits Russia's um, Black Sea oil export terminal. Okay, when did this happen? This was basically November 2nd reported. Yeah, Ukrainian attack drones conducted a major strike on Russia's Tuapse Black Sea oil export terminal, setting the facility and 2 tankers which were onboarding Russian oil ablaze. Drones struck the Rosneft terminal. The hit targeted Russia's main deep water oil export pier, used to ship millions of tons of fuel to Asian markets. A tanker was also damaged after the strike. A massive fire broke out in the city, and firefighters struggled for hours to contain it. The initial attack triggered this massive explosion. There's a huge explosion. Now, this is on Hal Turner Radio Show. That's the source, Hal Turner Radio Show. Okay. Okay, so that's all that's going on now. Yeah, they did that on Russia. Okay, so looks like that war, they must like all that money and weapons we send over there to Europe, right? So, our part in NATO we're still paying our part, right? 5%, I guess now, huh? We're paying 5% of our GDP now to NATO. Our GDP, when I last looked, let me look again. So, okay. Let me see. Quarterly GDP. Golly, I have to refresh my screen now. Our quarterly GDP looked like $6 or $7 trillion, but I'm gonna have to refresh my screen here. So quarterly, we'd have to be providing for NATO, our part in NATO, 5%, huh? So 5% of for a quarter of 7,621,432,000,000. Annular growth 2.1%. Have to refresh this again. I don't know why. Over and over, refreshing this screen. Let me get out. I don't like this website anyways. Stand by. Since we're not finished with 2025, we're going to have the Biden third term results in the GDP. If I go to so it's going up, right? Approximately our GDP is $30.486 trillion, right? And our deficit is what? Not deficit. Our national debt is what? 38 trillion. So that's kind of like coming together, and that's good, right? So now we need to get rid of all that unconstitutional private banks kind of thing, printing our money and charging us interest on our own money. We got to get rid of that, phase that out, and go to back to the U.S. Treasury note. Okay, there's a lot of things we can back. We can back our U.S. Treasury note. That's how you do business with the United States. Remember, the Congress is supposed to be setting the value of our currency, and basically, we need to regain our financial sovereignty from private foreign actors. Let's just say that, right? I'm not saying anything bad about them. I don't know any of them personally. Okay, so the total estimated GDP right now is $30 trillion. Okay, national debt now, it went over 37 trillion. I think it's 38 trillion now. Okay, was 37 trillion. I think it's 38 trillion now, or 36 trillion. It went to 37. I knew that was going to go, because last time I talked about it on this channel, it was like $37.8 trillion. That means 37 trillion $800 billion national debt. Okay, 38 trillion 65 billion $796 million. Remember, this is the total national debt. And think about how much interest we're paying on these unconstitutional loans every day. The interest by just a day alone off of $38 trillion, 38.065, which is 38 trillion 65 billion dollars. Okay. So with that said, yeah, in a perfect world, you know, we wouldn't be talking about this stuff, right? But we don't live in a perfect world, and there's a lot of corruption out there, and that's what these people in charge of our currency and charging us interest on our own currency and manipulating the interest rates. So guess what? When our national debt goes up, it's 38 trillion 65 billion, right? US dollars. When that interest rate, see, that's the reason why this Fed chairman, Powell, whatever his name is, refused to lower the interest rate. So that's the reason why the stock market acted, because they lowered it, what, 0.25%, right? Remember? So, and I remember, I support, if you got the money, yeah, diverse portfolio, right? That's what I was always told. Let me see. I'm just curious what silver is. They're back down below $50 an ounce. What's the spot for silver right now? Come on, now I want to see this. Oh, it's up there on top of the screen. Slide right to complete the puzzle. Oh, I get to play puzzle. Okay. Silver, $49.04. Gold, $4,019.20. I remember people in there saying it was 2,000. I think it was going to go up, right? I I really didn't have money to buy that 2,000 an ounce either. For those that do, hey, more power to you. I hope you made out like a bandit, whatever. Not like a bandit. I shouldn't say that. Hope you made out good. Hope it helps you out and your family. So I'm not against people buying gold and silver. I'll talk about something like that came up. I studied quite extensively when I critically learned our scriptures, right? I'll talk about that another day. So if I was going to go in and buy, I just basically buy the bar. And I heard you have to be careful with that. If I had the money to invest in silver or gold, I would buy it by the bar. I mean, I like this Standing Liberty silver dollar. Those are pretty cool. Normally they give you a maximum you can buy in those if you had the money, you know what I mean? So looking at one, buy silver eagles as low as $56. Remember the spot now, I guess this spot is on top of the screen. It went up 11 cents to $49.02 an ounce. I'm gonna hold out on that, and they'll probably just skyrocket up to 1,000 when RH isn't recommending. I'm not a financial advisor, so don't listen to RH. Okay. I was saying back in, I was recommending everybody buy silver back in. Let's see, what was it? Was 2007, 2000? No, not that long ago. That was 2016, 2015, somewhere around that time frame. I was telling people buy silver, right? I think it was somewhere at $30 an ounce, somewhere around that. Yeah, that would have been nice if you just had it sitting somewhere you didn't need the money. You had your silver. That's a nice little. I'll just hold it. If you bought it at 30 or 35, this is just me. I would just hold it. You know what I mean? Now, if you bought gold at like $200 an ounce, you got you got like a million ounces of it. I'd say go ahead and sell right now, and look into maybe go into silver. No, don't do it, because you're gonna basically, it's about supply and demand, right? If there's less supply because somebody went out and bought up a million, bought like 20 million ounces of silver because they just cashed in their million gold ounces, whatever they bought in, like 100 million ounces of silver, whatever. I wouldn't advise that. I wouldn't. Don't put all your eggs in the same basket, right? Don't do that. Don't do that. But of course, you can do whatever you want to do. This is a free country. Don't listen to RH. Listen to Mrs. RH. Okay, so with that said, remember Team Spirit, what team we're supposed to be on? Go check that out. That's John chapter 17. If you want to read about Team Spirit, remember John 17. Let me look at this here. I'm pretty sure that John chapter 17 is all red print. It's our brother, remember, because Jesus said, or Yeshua said, those that follow the will of my father are my brothers, and my sisters are my mothers, are my aunts and uncles. Pretty much like that, right? I'm paraphrasing. So, what was I going to look up again? See, I just forgot what I was supposed to look up. John chapter 17, right? I'm pretty sure it's all red print, the whole chapter. Yeah. Chapter 15 is all, John chapter 15, all red print. A large portion of John chapter 16 is red print. And John chapter 17. Except for these words spake Jesus and lifted up his eyes to heaven and said, after that, all of John chapter 17 is in red print. Okay? So with that said, remember team spirit. This is a spiritual warfare we're going through. And remember how spiritual warfare can negatively affect our physical health, right? Not just our spiritual health, but these attacks on us can affect our spirit, can get us in a down, like we're down, we're sad, we're anxiety, fearful, that kind of thing, right? And that's what they want us to be. They want us to be scared and fearful, and all that kind of thing, right? So remember what team spirit we're on, what team we're on, and learn about team spirit is in John chapter 17. So let's just use this analogy. What if the last game of the Dodgers, or the last game, the seventh game in the World Series, and the coach or the manager and the owner of the team of the Dodgers came into the locker room before everyone got suited up and went out there on the field, or after everybody got suited up and right before they were going to go out on the field. The manager came in there, the coaches came in there, and they told the players, okay, y'all played a really good postseason. You're here right now. You're tied up with the Blue Jays, and it's 3-3. You don't have a chance. You don't have a chance. Look at all those people out there. They got the majority, right? They got the majority. Listen to the crowd. You don't have a chance. Don't worry about it. Just go out there and play the game. Don't worry about losing. You've done great so far. Is that the type of team spirit you want to hear from your owner of the franchise, the manager of the team, and the coach of the team? The coaches, plural. You think if you're a player, you want to hear that stuff? You don't have a chance, right? And remember, I said that for majority for a reason. They don't have the majority spiritually or physically. They do not have the majority. That's part of the facade they like to use on us. That's like we've already called them narrowing in their camera views when they record these live events, right? So they can see there's nobody else out there. Remember, this is a spiritual warfare we're going through. If you actually think about it, a lot of us are doing great. And if God is with us, who is against us, right? Who can be against us? If God is with us, who can be against us? Okay, so with that said, good morning, good day, good evening, wherever you're from. This concludes the live stream, and God bless. Thank you.